Just one preseason match left and 9 days until the opener for the New York City Football Club, February 22nd at Inter Miami. A match in the preseason against Minnesota on Saturday coming up. Conversations with Pascal Jansen, the first-year head coach, Matt Freese, the New York City Player of the Year, according to the supporters and the team. That's all upcoming on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, you have to forgive me. I just talked to Pablo Mastroeni, and I had Pablo on the line. It's Pascal Jansen. And when
it's funny. It's not the first time you've done this.
Yeah.
It's really funny. You've done this. You've mixed them up.
Well, anyway, I did talk to, and I called him by the right name when I spoke to him earlier today.
Yes.
There was a media presser with Pascal and Matt, and some of those clips will be seen later on. But I got a chance to sit down one-on-one with both of them, and we'll play a clip from each. I'm going to post those entire interviews as well. So some really good stuff. As New York City FC, Roberto, it's just one more game here at the Coachella Invitational, and then on to Miami and the opener. And it's interesting because there are injuries, nothing severe, but the lack of preparation because some of those players are not involved. The question about Santi Rodriguez and how that might get resolved one way or the other. And so, Pascal has not been able to really have the full troop, in to figure out maybe the whole setup. But that's it's the way it goes, and that's part of why they brought him in. David Lee hired him, is because he handles these kind of situations with a plum. So he's going to be tested early, though.
Absolutely. Not only that, but also let's remember that there are 3 vacancies on the team, or 3 open spots that New York City can and probably will fill, but not exactly sure when and what those positions are going to be. And I guess a lot will also depend upon the fact that if Santi Rodriguez winds up going to Brazil or staying in New York.
Correct. Well, my assumption is that as they look at the transfer market, the number 6 is maybe their primary target, and that's where James Sands departed, right? And so when you think about the 6 and the different coaches like different profiles with that player. James Sands was number 1 in MLS in ball winning skills last year. I don't know the exact terminology, but he was one of the best, if not the best, at destroying things in the midfield in MLS last year. He's gone. He's at FC Pauli, and Justin Hack played the first game here at Coachella in the midfield, but now he's moved into the back over the last 2 games in as a reserve, as Pablo really rotated it in game 3, getting ready for this Saturday game where I would assume
I'm going to fine you every time you call him Pablo now.
Oh, I just said Pablo again. Yeah, I should. Pascal. Maybe I'll just call him Coach. I don't know what that is, but I spent so long with Pablo Mastroeni. He really was generous with his time a couple of nights ago, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of that too. But anyway, it's an early challenge, and Thiago Martínez, he is still not back from injury. Andres Pereira is just starting to train a little bit. Hannes Wolf is back now. Kevin O'Toole, I don't know what his status is for Saturday, but again, his is not serious. It's just a bit of a knock. And I think one thing that we can surmise here is that the thing I've heard, and you'll hear it from Pascal ultimately, when you hear the entire interview, is that this is what he said. Based on what he's heard from the players and the staff that's with him, this preseason was far more intense. There was greater intensity in this one than a year ago. And sometimes what can come with that are some nicks and knacks and little injuries like that. So I don't know if that's the cause of it, but it's, there's some players that are, not in full health right now.
Right. And I guess the principal player in all of this would probably be Thiago Martínez, as he was the captain for most of the season last year and one of their, if not the best defender that they had. So we don't know if he's going to be ready for the 22nd at Inter Miami. And that's going to be, I think, the key. And then if he doesn't go, so then what happens? You put Tanasiewicz in there along with Bakrar, or are you going to drop Hack into that position? And then you're going to start Perea and Parks, or is Hack going to be in the midfield, trying to win balls there? There's a lot of decisions that have to be made by Pascal Jansen. And then also Javier Mascherano has to figure out, how New York City is really going to line up. And if we remember last season, New York City, played them pretty well.
Yes, they did, with a pair of draws, including James Sands' late equalizer at Yankee Stadium before that packed house, which was, one of the thrilling moments of 2024, no question about it. Yeah, I mean, it's a real, it's a bit of a conundrum because Hack may be necessary in the midfield because he's got that James Sands profile, but because Strahinja Tanasiewicz, we should say, is another one of the players that's a little injured, and Martínez, it's a calf injury. He injured his calf the third day of preseason, and that's how long it's been since he's been able to progress and still not in full recovery, as far as I can tell. So it's a bit of a quandary, but it's also kind of a fun time of the year. I think there's I think on the positive side, we see a very dynamic and free-flowing Agustín Ojeda. I think he looks great, and that's, for this guy who's now 20, to have that experience last year, but now just seemingly he's running at players, he's getting him behind, getting to the byline. I mean, he's doing all these things that he didn't do consistently a year ago. And then Julian Fernandez, he wore the captain's armband in the most recent match. Before that, it was Matt Freese. So it's there's a level of trust in Julian Fernandez that Pascal Jansen would so summon him in the third game here at Coachella.
So, Glenn, you are not only obviously out there, you were calling the game on television, and it's always great to hear you on the call. So, of the new kids that were given a chance yesterday, was there anybody who impressed you, who you thought, wow, okay, if you needed to play this kid in a pinch, you'd have no hesitation of putting him in?
Well, we've talked about left back and that there's a depth issue there. Well, Nick Cavallo is highly regarded. I will put that pretty clearly by the coaching team, and I'm pretty certain that he's going to figure into the plans, at least at the outset, not as a starter ahead of O'Toole, but as a reserve in that left back position, because O'Toole has on occasion gotten banged up. He's had a groin issue, remember last year, that kept him out for a pretty significant amount of time. So having somebody, and I would think Cavallo is ahead of Prince Mpansa, who started in that game yesterday, and then Cavallo, who started against San Diego, and he put in some good delivery. So they like his engine. He can run forever, and that's what you want out of that position. So that's one player who I think you get the sense that there's a high regard for him. And then Johnny Shore, with the midfield light, and especially with Perea just coming back into training. So he's not going to be ready for Saturday, and that it'll be a massive question mark for Miami as well. Johnny Shore is a guy that, hey, he caused, Alonso Martínez scored a goal. It was offside in game 3, but it was Johnny Shore who poked it away just with some counter pressure which is a big part of how they want to win the ball back. And, he's shown some good stuff. He's also in high regard, I think, based on what's going on in preseason.
Very good. I got a chance to see the U.S. U17 team. They played two, walkover games, one against the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then I didn't watch the second one. I saw the first one. And then the second game, they beat, the second game, St. Kitts and Nevis. But
Carrizo didn't play.
Was good.
He didn't play in the second game.
He did not. He played in the first game, and he was massive. Obviously, it was just not a rival, obviously. When you win 22-0, it's not exactly.
I'd hesitate to evaluate that game.
But he did get right, exactly. It was just too easy. But he did have 4 goals in the game.
Yeah, but that wasn't close to the guy that scored 10.
I know. But he set up a lot of those. Carrizo set a lot of those up.
Okay. I didn't see the game, so I know you were watching. You were texting.
I felt
our
so
group
bad
text. If we could ever screenshot our group text and share it, it would be pretty funny to see everybody's commentary on that. But anyway, I was just laughing on my end because I couldn't watch the game. Well, but you're right to bring him up. We don't have a real good feel for how Maximo Carrizo will fit into the midfield. And, he's more of an attacking presence. And with the uncertainty with Santi Rodriguez, the age of Maxi Morales, and Hannes Wolf started at the attacking midfield role. He was the number 10 at the start of the game in this game 3 in the loss to St. Louis City, which you have to take with a grain of salt because the midfield was the 16-year-old Molinari, and then this boy out of Northwestern, McCamey. That was your starting midfield. So it's hard to, you can't judge the overall performance of the side. I will say they came out and played very well in the second half, including those 2 players. The ball really moved, and I would think that's the halftime message there from Pascal. See that? You can't find me on that one.
No, you got 2 in a row.
We'll see how many times I screw up on live commentary once the season starts.
Oh, God. Ginkoba, I think it's called, or Ginkoba, I think it's called. So you just get a lot of that.
Now there's also so Max Murray. He is someone that they're really intrigued by, but he's not ready. He's not ready, and you can see it. The most vivid was watching Mason Toye kind of toy with him. That was in the San Diego game. No, the Sporting KC game that ended 0-0, and Toye missed a penalty, which he drew. Toye missed 2 shots, 2 sitters.
Yeah.
Also, so he had 3 big chances, but he really was kind of had his way. And then Max Murray in this last game got beat on the edge. I forget who the number 20 was for St. Louis City. Got around the edge, and then they've got an exceptional. Hartel scored the goal. He's a pretty good DP forward that St. Louis City has. So he got that opening goal. So there's time for him to figure it out. Tavon Gray played center back that game. I don't know if you noticed that, Roberto. So
I did. I was happy for him. So he's trying things, and this is what I like. I really, really like this. So he gave kids a chance. He's putting players in different positions to see how they're going to do and to see if they get a little experience in that position, which will help them, and is going to help the team depth considerably. I like it. I like the fact that Hannes Wolf played the 10. And, he got a chance for 45 minutes, to try to run the offense over there. I like the fact that he played with two number 9s, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But there's a lot of things that he's trying, and this is what preseason is for. And this is why I continue to say that results don't matter, because you're trying things, and this is the time to try them. Now I think in the next game is probably more of all right, this is a dress rehearsal to what we're going to do in Miami. And it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be the full team, but it's going to be as close to it, I think, as possible, unless you spoke to Pascal and he said something different about how he's going to approach the last game of
I haven't. I'm going to have a chance to have a couple of minutes with him before kickoff. So if you tune into commentary, which is 2:00 here. So what's that? 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Hopefully I'll have that kind of information. Jimmy, just hit him with a clothesline where he said, I felt like the kids were playing a little timid. We do have a number of comments, and we're going to get to the jersey in a little bit. Nice photo, by the way. I wonder if that's
Razor Ramon. It's Razor Ramon. Come on, man. You got to know you're wrestling.
Yeah, I don't know him. But I will say I agree to a point, but I think what you've seen is, and this is what happens with any player and in preseason, is that every game it should get a little better and they should become a little bit more relaxed. And I certainly think Johnny Shore fits into that mold. The 16-year-old Molinari, he was a bit timid, but he made a couple of nice deliveries. Second half, he improved. He really came out and played well in the second half, so he needed a little time. So I think that's it's so and it is preseason, so we have all this optimism. Roberto, everybody's thought, well, there have been no roster moves. We lost Sands. We lost McFarlane. We've got injuries. But, it's still that optimism of these new players or the players who didn't play as much, and now we're going to get a little bit more time. It's their time. So let's see what they do. Let's see what they do with it when the whistle blows, yeah?
And also, it's a very young team. It was one of the youngest teams last year. It's going to be even younger this year. And what that means is that a lot of these kids who were playing under fire whenever they got a chance, right, a lot of pressure, they're going to be better this season. I expect Ojeda to be better. I expect Fernandez to be better. I expect Alonso Martínez to be better. I expect a lot of these guys who, are young and have been with the team maybe a couple of years, and they're going to come. I expect them to improve. So, yes, the team didn't bring in any new players yet, and we expect some to come in. And, it's always late with New York City FC. But I still expect this team, despite what some of the other teams have done, Cincinnati brought in Evander, Dallas, well, they're out on the West, but they got Lucho Acosta. So, a lot of these teams have improved and done some things. And then, we're going to see what New York City winds up doing. If they're going to also, make a trade within the league or buy a player within the league that might fill in, in a depth spot or, jump somebody and go into the starting lineup, there's still time. So the window doesn't close for a while.
Nope, there's still time, but it's also getting a little late at the same time because seasons are starting and maybe there's more reluctance to move. I don't know. I will say, I think midfield in particular, really looking forward to Carrizo's return, but it's not going to be for a while. Hopefully. Now, what happens? They play one more game, the U17s, and then he comes back?
They play against Cuba. And if they win their game against Cuba, then that means that they have made the World Cup. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a playoff after that. I'm not.
No, you know what? I now know if you win your group, you go to the World. You have to win your group, and then you go to the World Cup. I'm remembering it now because a friend of mine.
And what about second place teams?
I don't think there's an accommodation for them. A friend of mine, my friend Marco, is the U17 coach for St. Lucia, which I believe have been eliminated now. They lost their first 2 games, but he had because I wasn't sure, and he told me a while back that it's just however many groups there are, it's just the top team from each group advancing. So
okay, well, the U.S. plays Cuba, so that's the next game, and I would have to believe that their first game lineup is a starting lineup, which means Carrizo will be back in there.
Yeah. What's the over-under for that one? Cuba can't be any good.
Cuba, I think they won their last game 4-3. They've won both games, so they've beaten the same opponents that the U.S. has beaten. They just didn't beat them as handily. So the U.S.
If they conceded 3 goals to the U.S. Virgin Islands, if that's the one, I don't know. I'm just saying. That's not going to be.
They might have improved, and their second game, they might have learned a lesson or 2 or 22.
Kind of a fun thing yesterday too, Roberto, is Alfredo Morales and I didn't know it until I introduced myself to Lutz Pfannenstiel and the general manager for St. Louis, and I said, I really respect what you've been doing here. Told him what I did, and I know he's a commentator. He's a Fox commentator for German, for some of the German league games. And he said, "Oh, you might be interested. Alfredo Morales is here." I said, "What?" "Yeah, he's trialing with us." So he's a trialist, and I exposed that, I guess, on the broadcast.
So you and I spoke about this yesterday. How the heck are you not supposed to say that who that person is that you actually know personally? That you're not supposed to identify him as what is he supposed to do? Trialist number 7?
Well, when the camera, there were close-ups of him, in the broadcast too, where he was involved. He's a midfielder, so he was involved in a lot of the stuff. And it's like New York City supporters are obviously going to go, "Hey, isn't that Alfredo Morales?" And so for me not to say anything would have been,
it's ludicrous that they asked you.
Yeah, but
that's insane. It's sort of like,
well, listen to this. Listen to this. So I ran back after interviewing Christian Ramirez. I'm going to go over the list of people I've interviewed here. This has been a really fun time for me. I feel so privileged to be here and talk to all these coaches and players. But Christian Ramirez, now when he debuted, so he was traded for 500,000 GAM from Columbus to the LA Galaxy to try to fill the hole of Dejan Joveljic, who was traded to Sporting KC for $4 million cash. A lot of money being thrown around here, but he was not announced by MLS when he debuted for the Galaxy on that. The days are, I think that was February 8th. And so he was a trialist for that game. But when I saw the roster sent to me by the Galaxy, it had his name on it with the number. He wore number 17. That's his number. But in interviewing him today, he said all his friends and family were saying, "What an insult that you have to be called a trialist and they can't use your name until they announce it." And it was like, well, I have to tell you, it was out there. So hopefully your family caught some of that. And because I called him, they called him by his name. I put it up on social media. I took a picture of him and put it up there because it was like, of course they're going to sign him.
The league's got to grow up when it comes to stuff like that. Be more transparent. It is what it is. Stop this. I mean, it's
at least
nuts.
What's really interesting about this Coachella Valley Invitational, and I'm so happy to be a part of the broadcast, is that for like when New York City played San Diego, that's the first time San Diego supporters had a chance to see their new team because they don't stream. Nobody streams games anymore. It's like, we've got a high, and they're playing everybody. If I were the commissioner of MLS, I would say you're allowed, I think I've told you this before, you're allowed 2, if you scrimmage 6 times, you're allowed 2 closed door. All the other scrimmages have to, 8 scrimmages, 2 closed door, everything else has to be streamed. That's a requirement because the supporters want to see the teams,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I mean, there's been some, like, for instance, the teams that are participating in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them have like some massive games that they've already had, which are training games. So like LAFC played America in BMO Stadium, and they sold that place out.
Yeah,
that was a pretty intense game, by the way.
I bet.
And although America used a lot of their reserve players and all that, but LAFC wound up winning 2-1.
KP, put KP's up there about seeing the team, wanting to see the teams, because I'm adamant about this. I just, our own team, they don't show these early scrimmages, and yes, we want to definitely see the teams, right? And I think that could be. I think he's speaking for all supporters, and but it also, I will say this: it costs money for them to do it and do it properly. And you don't want a field level camera stream the whole game. That's ridiculous. So there's more to it than just saying, hey, you should stream the games. But I think MLS should subsidize it all too. So I'm going to throw it on them. This is a great MLS show because we're going to talk about USL Tier 1 and kicking it around. And their announcement today, great story by Paul Tenorio. And then this guy, John Morrissey, who's got a Substack, really kind of went through some of the
he was very detailed.
Yeah, so that was good too. So we'll get into that in a little bit. The other guy I ran into, which was fun, was Tommy McNamara. Again, I just bumped into him, and it's like, and he's wearing a Timbers kit, and he's
you outed him too. Oh well.
How about? And I played the video of his assist. Pretty good, huh? Did you see it?
Yeah.
So
I'm happy for Tommy Mack. I hope he sticks there. I mean, him and Portland, the faithful there are going to love him.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't see him play the game, but all these games are. By the way, any of these, I figure real MLS nerds are sitting around just watching all these games again because there aren't any streams for any teams that I know of. Very few, anyway.
Well, funny thing is, what was it? After the second New York City FC game, immediately after that, we got San Jose against the Red Bulls.
Oh wow! They just
on Channel 9.
Oh, on Channel 9.
Yeah,
oh, that's right, because they're doing all the Red Bull games too. That's right. I forgot about that. That's pretty amazing. We got to find out how that all happened someday, Roberto. That Channel 9 is doing Red Bulls and New York City FC in the preseason. That's pretty wild.
I mean, I think it's wonderful. I mean,
it's great.
And with MLS Season Pass, you have to buy it unless you're a season ticket holder or a T-Mobile subscriber. Then you get it for free. A lot of people don't get to watch the games on TV because of that. Or if they're at the stadium and they do have it, then they only get to watch the away games.
So that's.
By the way, you notice my MLS mug. By the way, I'm just to show that I'm show correct.
Did we get those this year? I got something from MLS.
No, these are really old. I have these for, I don't know, easily 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, MLS has to up their game on the gifts for the people that bust their humps promoting their product. You know what I'm saying?
Stop asking for graft.
I'll take anything, but I'm not. I'm not a big gear guy, but I would love to have a mug or you know what I want? Just send coffee mugs, man. I want coffee mugs from every team, everything, man. That's what I like. Mugs. See this one? This is my Airbnb mug. I don't really know what that is, but
I have no idea. I went to the press conference for the marathon this year, thanks to my friend Dara Kennedy, and wound up going there. And man, they gave me a bag full of swag. That's fantastic, including a really cool coffee cup, I have to say, and gloves. They gave me like the marathon gloves, which were very cool. I've been using them. They've been great. And advertising the marathon, by the way, every time somebody sees it, oh, look, the marathon. It's not like MLS would give you something to wear or something where people go, oh, look, MLS. That's very cool.
All right. Well, part of my privilege was to sit down with Pascal Jansen and Matt Freese today. So let's do Matt Freese first because so here's the thing with Matt. So he percentage-wise, when you look at the metrics, save percentage, expected goals scored against him. I mean, he was at or near the top in those two categories in MLS, leading into the FC Cincinnati, the third game of FC Cincinnati, where he comes up with 3 penalty saves. All that, and he didn't get called into the first window by Mauricio Pochettino. So with that in mind, he did get called into the January window. Venezuela, Costa Rica were the opponents he didn't play, and we've already gone over that ourselves that we had hoped he would, but he didn't. But here is Matt today on his experience with the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic experience. Learned a lot on the field. Also, it was just a really good, opportunity for me to, put myself against the best and see what I'm made of. And I think I held up pretty well. I think it's a very clear goal of mine to be in that group, on a consistent basis. And so, as my role and my career here in New York continues to progress, it's always in the back of your mind, driving your work ethic and driving your will to win and improve.
And I follow that up by just saying, well, Mauricio Pochettino, he's watching MLS. If you perform in MLS, that enhances your chances. And he said, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what he and others were told. And he's 26 years old, so he's still young for a keeper. But it's a very, very big year for him. to try to be in the mix in what is, I don't care what anybody says, that is a wide open position. Matt Turner's not getting a sniff unless it's the FA Cup. And it's
he played the other day, and he played well. Got the win. Didn't have a lot to do, but it was good to see him in the game for Crystal Palace.
I wonder if Zach Steffen in Pochettino's mind is the number one now. I wonder. Wonder.
I think right now it's still Matt Turner. Matt Turner, every time he's gotten a chance, that's who's been between the pipes. So and he's performed well for the U.S. national team. So unless there's some major gaffe or something, then I think he's going to be number one. Okay,
well, Steffen played the Venezuela and Costa Rica matches because the European players weren't in. So I that's why I'm saying, I thought he did pretty well. I thought he showed well. He made the saves he needed to, and he didn't. There were no massive mistakes, which has he's been a little prone to committing. But we'll see. So
is Turner, and that's the thing. Both of them, problems with their feet, which is and something that I would think that. Well, we're going to see how much Matt Freese improved on that this year compared to last year. I thought he got better throughout the season, but it's not exactly where he's mastered it per se. I think there's room for improvement, and we'll see how much Pascal works with him on that.
Now, Pascal spoke with him as well. I thought one of the more interesting questions I had for him and then responses was against San Diego, the 3-1 win. Alonso, Martínez, and Mounsef Bakrar started up top together. Alonso was initially in that wider left position. Bakrar was the 10. And then Julian Fernandez was on the opposite side.
Bakrar was the 9, right? But sorry, not the 10.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we're clear because
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the 9. Forgive me, and thank you for the correction. But let's address this first. So I asked him. I said, "Well, what is this something that we might see more often? Those two playing together?" And here he is, Pascal Jansen.
When I look at my roster, I'm also when we're in possession, I'm looking for goals and assists. So these two characters are well known for scoring goals and preparing goals. So if we can work out a team shape where we can have them both on the pitch, it would be a fool not to try it. And it worked out in this game, so it gave us a lot of information to use in the future. Both are best as a number 9, but if we can create a certain chemistry for them both working together on the pitch, and also mainly providing them the balls that they can finish off, because don't underestimate the quality that Maxi has brought to the game until now, the quality that we have created in build-up phases, the construction in midfield allows these players to be at their best.
And that's why he's focused on the midfield. By the way, that's a big part of this. But if you go back and watch that game, Roberto, and maybe you did and noticed, is that Martínez oftentimes was more towards the center part of the field, and it really looked like twin strikers at times. And they were playing off each other. So Martínez assisted Bakrar's goal, and then Martínez, I'm forgetting that. Did he have a brace? I think he had a goal and assist or 2 goals and assist that game. But it really did work. They look good.
Yeah, but it's not something that's unusual for New York City, because whoever plays on the left side, especially when it's Santi Rodriguez, he always winds up drifting to the middle, and then O'Toole is really the one who provides the width and the service on the outside for the most part. So it seems like New York City will continue to do that no matter who's out there.
But when Santi's drifting into the middle, if he's still around, he's more connected with Maxi or whoever.
Right.
At that time, rather than higher, where they had that look more of twin strikers at times. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it was productive, like he said, in the first time they tried it against San Diego, who's going to struggle early on. I mean, they conceded 3 more in their last match, and it's Mikey Varas has a tough job ahead of him. Looks like I'll be going over to their hotel tomorrow to get Mikey Varas and Ima Boateng. So Roberto, I want to read the list of people I've interviewed. I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this, but it's also and if you're a subscriber to Sirius XMFC and you're a soccer aficionado, I'm going to say like Pascal just said, he'd be a fool not to try to play those two. I'm going to say you'd be a fool not to tune in to some of these interviews. So Cherundolo Long from LAFC, Estevez Vasquez from Austin. So this is coach and player. Neville and Crapo from Portland, Vermees Shallowy from SKC, Arena and Harks from San Jose. Minnesota was Eric Ramsey and Tanny, their young guy up front. The Galaxy, Vanny and Christian Ramirez. New York City, Pascal and Freese, as you know. Charlotte, Dean Smith and Patrick Ajabang, who I'm really anxious to talk to. RSL,
by the way, when you don't be intimidated by Ajabang when you start looking up.
Well, I'm sitting for all these interviews, by the way.
You're still looking up. He's a number. He's like, he could play the 4 in the NBA.
Well, I'll see what he says. Let's see if he played basketball like Max Murray. We talked about Max Murray for the New York City rookie. Credits some of his footwork to basketball. Pablo Mastroeni and Diego Luna, Emeka Anelli for RSL. Getting San Diego tomorrow and getting Chicago tomorrow. I know I'm getting Brian Gutierrez. I'm not getting Greg Berhalter, I was told. So, yeah, it's too bad.
Shame.
But I'll get him later.
They're playing well. They're playing well. Who did they smoke the other day? They just smoked somebody 5-1. That was like no contest.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who it was. It was Bruce against Berhalter. He smoked San Jose and Bruce Arena 5-1. It was 5-0 at the half. It was 3-0 after 15 minutes. And both teams were playing what I would say, stronger, fairly strong units. The Chicago Fire, Eastern Conference beware. And Greg Berhalter, in a club situation where he has these guys for an extended period of time, they looked very, very good. San Jose was chasing the game. They had Chicho Arango and Joseph Martínez. Bruce, and that's another interview you got to listen to. Bruce is he wants to get those two playing together because they're both goal scorers. So he also pretty much said, "Why wouldn't I try that?" So
exactly.
They were not productive in that game. Arango did score the 1 goal in the second half for San Jose, but Chicago Fire looked very, very, very good. And I'll talk to the 3. I think I've got Acosta, Gutierrez, and one other player tomorrow. So we'll find out.
Let's remember, folks, when Patrick Vieira was here, the team that he most looked forward playing was the Columbus Crew. And the reason that he most looked forward because he felt it was the biggest challenge because of the way Greg Berhalter set up that team, and also because they had the one player who Patrick Vieira said, we have to scheme against this one player, and he didn't do it for any other team or any other player in MLS, but he wanted to scheme against Darlington Nagbe. So Greg Berhalter knows what he's doing when it comes to teams. Whatever you think about him or whatever he did with the U.S. national team, either you liked them or you didn't like them, whatever it is. But when it comes to teams, he's got a good track record.
Well, their back 6, starting with Chris Brady in goal. Brady was very good on the day, but he's a good goalkeeper. And then Kellen Acosta sitting in front of the back 4, which includes this guy Carlos Turan. I've never seen him close up. That is a guy. He might be bigger than Ajamang. He's a monster. Oh yeah.
No, we'll have to put them side by side. And who was it? Nick Cushing really liked Acosta. He's like, that's one guy I'd love to have on my team, Acosta. He really liked him.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see. We'll see with the Fire. Before we get to kicking it around, I've been getting you. I think you get these press releases too. I know at least 3 teams. I'm thinking Portland and San Jose, and there's one other, have put a release out that they're having a media taste testing day where you can come in and try all the different foods from the vendors that they'll be serving. So
I saw that from Portland today.
My plea from New York City FC, maybe they'll wait for the stadium in 2027 when it will be actually local vendors, with their. But that's a great. There's a couple of things there. That would be a great idea in New York City. A media game would be a great idea, and then some sort of golf event where the media is invited. Those 3 things I think New York City should endeavor investigate. That's what
okay. So I had a conversation on social media. I think it was on Blue Sky with Jonathan Tannewald, who is somebody who wrote about that, and he said that Portland has the best press food in MLS, and I protested slightly because Yankee Stadium is fantastic, is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Portland has a more eclectic menu.
Yeah,
Yankee Stadium has like all the solids, all the basics, plus something fun. Every single time you can get fish, you can get chicken, you can get beef, whatever you want. It's there. There's always great pasta, and everything's delicious.
It's a good
we're
spread.
Very, very spoiled.
It's a good spread. So I'll revise what I said earlier. Let's do that media food thing this year. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Let's kick it around.
It's going to be game 3.
Well, you talk about big news. Paul Tenorio at The Athletic put out one of those stories that just kind of you click on at like 8 a.m, and it's the USL has announced, and they also put out a release of USL, but Paul interviewed Paul McDonough, who is one of the muckety mucks for USL, and really like he's like the chief soccer officer, something like that. So he's very much involved in the fact that USL, it looks like, will be sanctioned. Well, they're applying for it for Division I status.
Different.
But in this Tenorio article, he said that McDonough has met with U.S. Soccer and got positive vibes, unlike the NASL vibes in this recent trial. But so this is very interesting because, as McDonough said in this story, it really sets USL up for promotion relegation because they already have a championship, they already have a League One, and now if they have a Division I top tier team, I mean, there it is. And they have clubs in the championship that, they don't yet meet the requirements for Division I status, but they can with some renovations. So
right, it's got to be what, 15,000. The minimum stadium has got to be 15,000. And I mean, the last time that something like this happened with NASL, and I think this is part of the argument that they had in their lawsuit, was that if I may use a euphemism, that's NFL, is like sort of like U.S. Soccer moved the goalposts on them, meaning that once they applied, all of a sudden the requirements got tougher, like the stadiums had to be bigger and all these different things. But 15,000 for minimum capacity for the stadium, fine. Now here's the thing that I've been arguing, and I stopped arguing because at some point I just had to, with the pro-rel crowd on social media, right? Who are not very large, but boy, are they active. And I've always said, look, you want pro and pro-rel, you're not going to get it in MLS because the way MLS was built, everybody had to put in, millions and millions of dollars, and they're not going to just cede their space, even if they get relegated, to somebody who just put in some 500,000.
$500 million for San Diego. $500 million for San Diego, which, by the way, is shared by all 29 teams. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so right, and so that's the point, right? That you have all these teams that they had to buy, that are worth a lot of money now, or they had to put in a lot of money to buy, and then all of a sudden they're going to lose their position to somebody who costs $3 million. Sure. So that's just not going to happen. And I always said, so look, if you want to have a Division I and you want to have you want to have pro-rel, go put up a competitive league. It's already been done. We've done this in the past. The NHL had to fight against the WHA. The NFL had to fight against the AFL. The NBA had the ABA. And all these leagues wound up merging. So if you want your pro-rel and you want to do this, don't try to open up MLS. That's not happening. It's not fair to all the investors. Go make a competing league. Go put it, and they kept on saying, no, you can't do that. And I go, yes, you can.
I know.
Go find investors.
we know it's not going to happen in MLS. We're talking USL. They're set up for it. It's not going to be easy. It's certainly not going to be an easy task because you have to convince all the owners who have put in a lot of money. Apparently, a majority of the USL teams just lose a lot of money. I mean, so right off the bat, it's a no-win situation. I'm not suggesting that these people don't have a lot of money to blow, but it's the truth. The other requirement that I thought was interesting, and I think this plays into the pro rel a little bit, and credit to John Morrissey. I don't know if he listens to us, but he writes a Substack, which I get in my email pretty frequently. So after that story broke by Tenorio, John Morrissey followed up with some of the things that you just said, some of the rules or what's required. 15,000 was one of them. But you have to cover, within the league, you have to cover all the time zones, all 3 time zones. So depending on who makes the grade, and you have to have 12 teams. So they need 12 franchises I guess they're shooting for 2027, the World Cup year, 2027-28 season. And the problem there is, imagine this, Roberto. So here's the scenario. You have your 3 time zones covered, and then maybe you only have one in the Midwest, and they are relegated, and somebody from the West gets promoted. So what do you do now to keep the requirement going, So that there's an issue there. I don't know if there's any waiver. But
I saw something on that where some of these teams are going to be located. So the ones that would seem to qualify now, right, that would just make their stadiums bigger or build new stadiums are Rhode Island. So you got Miami, you got the Rowdies, Louisville, Indy 11, Detroit. You have the Switchbacks. You have New Mexico United. Phoenix Rising, Las Vegas, Sacramento, and the Oakland Roots. So you have those teams that you would think are going to be the teams that are going to elevate immediately, and then they'll fill in the spaces. Let me see how many of those are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 12. So if they want to have 14, maybe they need a team in Texas. San Antonio would come to mind. And then you might have, maybe a team in Nebraska. I don't know.
What do you think? And this is what John writes in the story too. I thought I had the story in front of me, and I had to pull it up. But nobody at this moment, only 2 teams meet the attendance requirement: Miami FC and Birmingham, and that's because they play in these freaking college football stadium type things.
Right.
So, and then the next closest that has an actual soccer facility is Louisville City at 11,700. That puts them about 4,000 shy of the 15,000 requirement. Now he suggests that he thinks that all these teams will be able to get a waiver as long as they're promising progress
in the process of right,
yeah. Which would be fair. I
100%.
don't know. And what was the other requirement here?
Because remember the Chicago Fire, before they built their stadium in Bridgeview, they were in Naperville and they were playing in a 12,000 seat stadium. And the exact same thing happened with Sporting Kansas City when they moved out of Arrowhead and they went to a baseball stadium while they were building Armstrong at that time, and before he fell out of grace, and and their stadium out in Kansas. Yeah.
One other requirement that I forgot about that some of these cities fall short is your metropolitan area population has to be 1 million. So let's take Colorado Springs, 768,000. Now that's a franchise that you would strongly consider, I think, for your top tier, yet they really don't come close to meeting the metropolitan area obligation. Lexington, we can leave them out there at 520. Monterey Bay. What was the other one I was looking? Oh, El Paso Locomotive has been a very successful championship team, but they're close to 200,000 short of the 1 million mark. And Charleston Battery, how do you leave them out? I mean, they're like a USL legend, and they're 150,000 short of this. So there are going to be exceptions, I think, if U.S. Soccer says welcome to Division I.
Yeah, I want to look up what St. Louis has for in MLS because they've been losing population. It's really one of those. So, like the population in St. Louis is 281,754. Now let me see but their metro population now when you start going around is 2.8 million. So, it's not just the cities per se. It's also the metropolitan areas.
Hey, Brooklyn FC, KP saying Brooklyn FC is coming they already have. That's interesting because their women's team is in the WSL Super League, not WSL, USL Super League for women in their first year, and they are top tier competing with the NWSL. Brooklyn is coming in as a USL Championship side. So depending on how that goes, but they won't start until 2026. They were hoping to start this year. They won't start until 2026. But they'll be in play,
where are they going to play? Because if they play in the Mets baseball stadium out in Coney Island, that only holds 6,000.
Well, that's where they'll start. But I'm telling you, ownership there, and we've had Matt Rosetta on. They've got cash. What I'm saying is, if it could work out, then I think they'll sort. But I also understand what you're saying. You need the land, but Roberto, here's what I want to say about this. Okay, we've got New York City FC. The Red Bulls are not a New York City team, so I leave them out. They're in Jersey. For once, I'm going to dish Jersey. Okay, right now. One of my regrets, Roberto,
I'm loving this. Yes.
One of my regrets is that I did not grow up in the 1950s. I'm a huge baseball fan, or was. I just can't follow it closely anymore. But I'm a huge, as you know, Yankees fan. But the time in New York baseball when the Yankees, the New York Giants, and the Brooklyn Dodgers were all in the same city and then would meet in the World Series on occasion. I mean, what a fantastic period. So New York City FC, Brooklyn FC, let's bring them in, man. Let's have multiple teams in the city playing top tier professional soccer. And I'm all for it. I hope I'm glad Brooklyn got brought up because I'm rooting for them all the way. And it's, if it's competition, it's competition. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Competition is good. I don't have a problem with competition. Yeah. Competition is good. It makes you elevate your game.
All right.
And that's what it does. I mean, I just don't know where they're going to play. That's the main issue. Because there's not that there aren't that many stadiums. And unless New York City, they come to New York City, they go, well, yeah, we know it's in Queens, but can we play here, please?
Or maybe what New York City can do, they pay $1 million a game to play at Yankee Stadium. Maybe they can charge a lot of money to Brooklyn FC to come in and play at Etihad Stadium, No?
Yeah, Etihad Field. Well, what is it? It is
Etihad Stadium. Yeah. It is Etihad Stadium, I think, right? I think it is. Hey, as we like to close
Etihad Park.
It's
Etihad Park.
It is Etihad Park. Sorry, guys.
Yes, because stadium's up in Manchester, and we're not driving on the wrong side of the road here.
Let's show the new uniform, and then there's a couple of comments about the jersey.
Yes.
There we go. New York City. Look at that. Look at Mounsef Bakrar. Isn't he a handsome guy? Look at that.
Yes, he is.
And then the backdrop. And that is beautiful. This is at a place called the
It's the Edge.
The Edge. Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking the Exchange. It's the Edge. And what a cool spot. There they are. I like them. What do you think, Roberto? I mean, I don't go crazy on jerseys.
I think I was a little taken aback at the beginning, but when I saw the leak, but now that I see them and everything, it's I like it. And also, go back to the jersey a second. I want to point something out.
Let's look at the three. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So you look at the badge. It's still the old badge. So this will be the last uniform to have the old badge, because I asked about this and they said, yeah, this will be the last one with the old badge. And then in 2026, they'll introduce the new badge on the secondary uniform. So it will be then. So that, yes, this wasn't like a mistake or anything like that. And this is the last one. So they'll retire the badge after this uniform.
Well, Burke Reese was a good choice. He's a fashionista, so he looks good in his new uniform there. So
yeah, no Chanel, so you got to go with Reese.
I tried to say hi to Chanel. He was, I don't know, he was getting treatment or something when I was over at the LAFC hotel. So he dissed me. Well, he didn't really diss me, but
no,
I didn't see him. All right, Roberto, as we like to do, close with something interesting, and you shared this with me, and this is interesting, and I'm all for it. And it was the penalty, the penalty in soccer, and a rule change. And this comes from Pierluigi, who's a former great official in global soccer, who's now like the chief of FIFA, whatever. I don't know what his title is.
Pierluigi Collina.
Yes, but so he's the leader of the referees in the world. Anyway, he would like a rule change whereby if a player strikes a penalty and the keeper saves it and it rebounds back to the player, he doesn't want them to be allowed to finish it. Somebody else, has to close in and finish it, or off the post.
No. Nobody has to close in and finish it. No, the rule that he wants is that he wants the penalty kicks to be like they are in shootout penalty kicks. If you hit the post or the goalie saves it, that's the end of the play. That's it. So this stops the rushing of the players going in, the invasion of the penalty area. It stops all of that, and it gives, because he says it's too much of an advantage to the forwards or to the kicking team. And so if the goalie makes a save or it hits the post or he misses it, that's it. So they don't get the advantage of the rebound. The play just ends, and you have a goal kick, and that's it.
And just to be clear, if it's saved by the keeper, as of right now, the shooter can finish the rebound. But if it's off the post, he cannot, or she cannot, because it has to touch another player before they can get involved. But you're right. Now you got the players crashing in, and we've seen it, hundreds of times on penalties that are saved or missed. And so it's essentially like it's like the penalty shootout penalty is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. I'm all for it. Let's put our vote in, Roberto, even though we don't have a vote. Let's put it in there.
I like it. I think it's okay. I don't have a problem with it. If they want to use that, I'm fine with it. I also want to see the rule. I want to see the rule change as far as shootouts are concerned, about how the order of the shootout. So Paul Gardner had suggested a long time ago that it should be, like team A, team B, then team B, team A, team B, and do it that way. So it's not always one team going first. You switch it out every round. I like it a lot because I think it's fairer.
For those who are watching, it's thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Well, you guys can give us your opinions here in the comments.
Why is it fairer? Go ahead. I don't understand that. And maybe I'm not thinking
because there's an advantage. I believe there's an advantage between going first or not going first, and so this makes it even for everybody. But
I don't think you stated that clearly, because if you're the first kicker and you make the kick, now the pressure's on the guy in the bottom of the inning. But if you miss your first kick and the guy at the bottom makes his, now the pressure's on the guy that comes up at the top again. So I'm just not following you. I don't see where the advantage is, but I'll look at it more. Let's study this a little bit more clearly. All right. Well, I hope everybody will consider tuning in. I'm sure New York City supporters are anxious to see this last game, where we would anticipate you're going to see as close to, if not exactly, what the starting 11 might be at Inter Miami, depending on maybe there's players not quite ready to play because of fitness, and maybe they'll be fit by Miami and then they're inserted there. We'll see. That there's a week in between. But I would think that whatever happens on Saturday there's a very good chances that's what we'll see on the following Saturday against Miami, and that's 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, and I'll be happy to diagnose everything for you again.
And then we gotta start watching Inter Miami.
Yeah, we have to do. I'm going to wait till next week to do that. So
Yeah,
and then we'll be on.
See what the changes are with Javier Mascherano. So.
And we're traveling on that Thursday, so if everything works out, we'll find out the times. We'll from the hotel on Thursday night after we talk to everybody. We'll do our next pod. But good stuff, Roberto. I appreciate it.
And I just want to remind everybody who speaks Spanish that I've added one more game to the rotation of games that are on Spanish radio right now, and that is the 2021 New York City FC versus the Portland Timbers in the MLS Cup final. So if you want to relive the championship days, then that game is up there. So it's one of 4 games that are on rotation that I have in Spanish. And once we broadcast live, well, then those will get, for the moment, interrupted. We'll do our live game, and then you'll go back to, to the games that we have on rotation.
I don't think you have to explain that. And why don't you explain to people when the English broadcast will be up?
Well, I've got to teach you how to do this, obviously.
Well, this must be the 4th pod where you promised you would teach me. But
you haven't had the time. What do you want from me? You're out in Coachella.
So
here's in the sand to God knows what music when you're not at a game.
You know what? I'm in the desert, and the other day, I didn't know this happened. The wind was really whipping, and it like the
you got sandstorms.
What do you call it? The air quality was like poor, listed in the official meteorologic.
Did you get the tumbleweeds?
No tumbleweeds, but you could hardly see all these beautiful mountains that surround this area. It was that dusty, and I was outside working at one point during the day. I didn't even notice it. My computer, when I came back in, was covered with soot, and I was like, "Whoa!" So
you got to be very careful with that out there. It's not like here. It's a totally different thing. No, so when I went out there last year, I went to visit friends in Palm Springs, and as I was approaching the area where they live, there were little tumbleweeds, going through, and then it was like a little bit of a sandstorm. And they say that some of the roads get closed because it gets cluttered with sand, and it's almost like snow, and they got to go and they got to clean it off and all that. It's great, but they also had in the mountains, in the mountains there, they had a forest fire, and they were trying to put it out, and so we had, you'd see all these planes and helicopters and dumping water on it and all of that. It was quite the scene. And also it was hot as hell. Oh my God, it was hot.
Well, this is the time to be here in February. All right, so that's it for us. So for Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks. Thanks so much for joining us on NYCFC Views Live.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.